Hi, this is Chris Claremont speaking to you from the offices of Nightwing Restorations, suggesting that you take a good listen to the Epic Marvel Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club. We just finished week 3 of our reading club. Can you believe it? It's been a really wonderful time reading through the early days of the all-new, all-different X-Men. I am Kurtis Findlay, of course, your host, and with me is Phil Owens, slaying symbiotes since 1964. Hi, Phil. How are you doing today?
Hello, Curtis. I'm pretty good, thanks. How are you doing?
Oh yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Um, I had a great week reading these books. It was an odd week because it starts strong and ends not so strong, just the way that these ones laid out. And I want to take a little bit of time just before we start to mention that this particular epic collection, Second Genesis, is loaded in the back with so many bonus issues that don't really have a purpose in the overall story. They're just kind of crammed in there because that's what epic collections do. And so we're talking about Marvel Team Up 53, 67, or sorry, 53, 69, 70, and Annual 1. So not only this week did we also talk about Iron Fist numbers 14 and 15, but we also had annual number 1 and Marvel Team Up number 53. And then next week we get to start with even more annual stories. And that's not what the epic collections do. They don't usually clump them all together like that. But I think for the sake of the story in this book, that's what they've done. And so unfortunately, for our reading purposes, it gets all bunched up and it feels kind of like a drag a little bit, but we'll get to the good stuff again in no time. Do you have any comments about that, Phil?
Only that there's no real comfortable place for these side issues to fit in. You just got to, the Claremont storytelling is so, well, I use the term roller coaster, it just keeps going from one issue to the next. They've just got to put them at the back.
Exactly. And there's even one note at the beginning of Marvel Team Up, right at the bottom of the splash page. It says the X-Men's adventures in Marvel Team Up Annual number 1 and 53 fit chronologically between the return from outer space and their departure for Cassidy Keep in X-Men 101, but these stories are placed here so as not to interrupt the series' continuing storylines. And then when you're reading the Iron Fist stories, Wolverine is wearing the outfit that he wore when he was in outer space. He got it from Fang, and so, but that doesn't quite fit with the continuity because he basically, as soon as he returns to Earth, he rips it off and puts on his old costume again. So it's like, well, why is he wearing that one in the Iron Fist one? Where does that fit? Doesn't really fit anywhere. So we have to forgive some of the continuity missteps, I think, here, and just go with the flow for the issues that we are reading this week.
All right. Even with the Marvel Team Up Annual, Jean Grey's in hospital in issue 101 and in issue 102, but yet she's in the annual.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So there's little things like that I think, I don't know why usually they pay more attention to stuff like that, but I guess with schedules as they were, and especially with it being with X-Men being a bi-monthly book, maybe they didn't have their big cork board full of strings and thumbtacks. They didn't have that all as good as they probably could have.
Yeah, the scheduling on those books was really odd. I looked it up today. Iron Fist 15 released May the 31st, and X-Men 108 came out September the 20th. So there was a big gap in between those two books.
Yeah, and I think I can't remember, but the other Phil in the Facebook group actually mentioned there were definitely delays and like scheduling uh, deadlines that were missed and all that kind of stuff that did cause all of that to happen. And by this time, we already know that Dave Cockrum is struggling a little with his deadlines. We talked about that in the last episode because of the fill-in issue that we read, and so if that's the case and he's still struggling with some deadlines, then it could be that things are being juggled a little bit in terms of just the what's being sent to the printer first.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. So Iron Fist is August during 10. It's published the same month as X-Men 106. And it could even be at that point that they which one is 106? Let me remember. It could be that Claremont didn't even have that scene where he rips off the Fang costume when they return to Earth. Like he didn't have that written yet, so they didn't know that that's what was going to happen. So when it's like, oh, we're going to have the X-Men appear in Iron Fist, here's what you need to know for now. They're in outer space. Oh, by the way, Wolverine got a new costume. I don't know.
I often wonder if that was maybe considered as Wolverine's new costume, because I mean it's the same color scheme as the one he eventually gets around issue 140, but maybe they decided to it didn't look so good, so they're going to scrap it.
That could also be John Byrne's preference, because maybe Cockrum wanted Wolverine to be in that costume, because that's definitely a Dave Cockrum design. Because the original Wolverine isn't Dave Cockrum's design. And so if Cockrum wanted to have his own character represented or reflected in Wolverine, he'd say, okay, let's give him this new costume. And then John Byrne comes along and says, you know what? I actually like that other costume way better. So in this issue that I'm going to draw here, I'm going to put him back in his old costume.
Yeah.
That could be what happened. I don't know. One day I'll sit down with John Byrne and ask him so many questions. We'll see if that ever happens.
That would be amazing.
Yep. Okay, so let's see. Let's say hi to some people in the chat here. Of course, we've got Batman and James and Comics for Life and Nathaniel, JV, Superjob. Superjob says, I read these Iron Fist issues about 3 years ago and wondered what the hell Wolverine was wearing. Now I know. Yeah, if you read it out of context, and especially if you're not familiar with this period of X-Men's history, then yeah, it could be like, that's such a weird costume, because it was just a blip in Wolverine's history. Okay. X-Men 107 had so many characters. This is what JV says. I can see why Cockrum missed his deadline for that issue. I want to talk about that for sure when we get into this issue here. Last week, some people asked if we could have some pictures on the screen of some of the pages that we're talking about, but I tried to get that. I didn't give myself enough time to get that organized for this live stream, so I'm going to have to work on that for next time. But it's in the works, so just hang tight there. The first issue we're going to talk about is 107. So let's talk about that. 107, where no X-Man has gone before. This is an incredible issue. And like JV said, so many characters. There must be like at least 20 characters here that Cockrum introduces. And he's like throwing out all of these designs, and there's Starjammers and the Imperial Guard, and like I just can't imagine so many issues. Now at this time, I believe Dave Cockrum knew that his time on the title was up. And he really wanted, he had these designs, these characters for Starjammers, and he really wanted them in the book. And so I think Chris Claremont at first was like, you should not do that. Let's put them in their own book. But then eventually relented, and or maybe Dave just drew them in, and Chris had to write them in the story, because that's how comics worked back then. But yeah, so many characters. I'm quite surprised. What do you think about all of the characters that were introduced here, Phil?
Well, as a Dave Cockrum fan and a Legion of Superheroes fan, I remember opening that book and my eyes just popping out of my head. I'm like, holy cow, it's the Legion.
Yeah, no kidding. That opening splash page is very much like a Legion of Superhero kind of thing, where just so many characters all in one splash page, double page splash page. And you can see he's exercising his chops here for sure. Yeah, he's no stranger to big crowded scenes like this. Now, there's one character in this big splash page up toward the top. I don't know any of these characters' names, but she has light blue skin and kind of a black purple costume that looks very similar to Storm's costume. It has that it's like the top and the bottom are connected by that jewel in the middle. And some of these other costumes look very reminiscent of other characters, or maybe even Legion characters. I'm not sure, but you can definitely tell they're his designs.
Yes, every character is an analog of a Legionnaire. Every single one.
Oh yeah, really? Okay, that's cool.
The girl with the blue skin is Shadow Lass in the Legion.
Oh, okay. And I guess the guy with the lightning bolt is probably Lightning Lad.
Lightning Bolt, yes, that would be yeah. Sunboy,
Okay.
Shrinking Violet. I'm sorry, I'm trying to see the. So we've got Sunboy, Shrinking Violet, Lightning Lad, Wildfire, Timberwolf, Brainiac 5, Mon-El, Ultra Boy, Phantom Girl, Starboy, Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, Chameleon Boy, and Shadow Lass.
Oh yeah, you can even see Brainiac with the little head, his head thingies there, right behind Gladiator. Yep. Okay,
yep,
so these are actually, yeah. I didn't realize that they are actually Legion's characters. That's amazing. That's so funny.
Cockrum wasn't messing around with them.
No, I guess not. Okay, so the story itself, this is an incredible. It's not quite the climax of the story yet. We just have a massive fight, but it's basically X-Men versus the universe, it seems, as they go about trying to defend themselves from the Imperial Guard, and they do a really good job of showing off, not just showing off their powers, showing off teamwork, showing off times when teamwork doesn't work, and showing off times when and getting to that point of desperation where they just need help, and then all of a sudden enters the Starjammers with another incredible splash page that just looks awesome. I love it. And then what I really like is the one scene where Jean reads Corsair's mind. He's like, there's something not right about this guy. He's like, what does he say? American slang and accents this far from home. So she knows something's up, and she reads his mind, and she's like, not him, which is a great mystery. I love it when they just kind of insert those types of things, and it's like, we're going to find out a little bit more of that later.
Yeah, never mind that everybody's talking English.
Well, I mean, they kind of explained that a little bit in a previous issue when they're bringing the X-Men together for the first time. Xavier's like, I'd use my mental powers to make sure that you can all hear each other in the proper language. So I think that I think for Colossus, everybody hears he hears everybody speaking Russian, and so I would guess that Xavier does that for these characters as well, except he wouldn't need to do it for Corsair because he already speaks English, which is why his accent comes through, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. It's just
Although,
a
John,
convenient science fiction thing. Sorry, say that again?
there's one panel in there somewhere that I'm trying to find, and I can't find it. But I think Nightcrawler says to Chod, he says something about speaking English, and Chod says, "Well, yeah, doesn't everybody?"
Oh, okay. Could be that that Corsair taught him English or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, who knows? It's those things in the early days of these stories that it's like, we're just gonna accept it for what it is.
Yeah,
In Star Trek, it's a universal translator, and here it's Xavier's mind. So there you go. I have one comment from, let's see, is it this one here? From Jeremy or JV, who's in the chat right now. JV, he says, "How much do I love this issue? A few years ago, I sat down at my sketch table and redrew all my favorite pages from this issue." And he gave a couple shots and like, good job, man. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of detail to put in there. And that's just one of the spreads. He shared a ton of those pictures. So good job, JV. Very cool.
absolutely. That's very impressive. Why haven't Marvel Comics cottoned onto this guy?
Yeah,
Give him
right.
a
Come
job.
on. So this issue, I think it's very fitting that it is Dave Cockrum's final issue because of the introduction of the Starjammers, which he wanted in there, and the shout out to the Legion of Superheroes. It's too bad that he only got what was it, like 15 or 16 issues, and then he moved on to something else. And I know he was working on John Carter of Mars at the time, and I don't know how much he stuck with that, but
He only inked the
the,
first issue.
then what did he move on to after this? Do you know?
He was working in the art department at Marvel, so he was doing a lot of like corrections and redraws. That was apparently
Okay,
keeping him busy most of the time.
right. And he'll eventually come back to X-Men in a little while, and we'll get to that part in our reading eventually, but it won't be for quite a while. Okay, let's move on to issue 108. It's called Armageddon Now.
Before we move on,
Let's start.
I've
Yeah,
got one
sure.
more comment to make on 107.
Sure, yeah.
In one of the panels there, Nightcrawler asks if anybody's got a shadow that he can hide in. Now, I was
Right.
reading The Art of John Byrne, which came out around 1980, I think it came out. But in that, John Byrne mentions that Dave Cockrum, he said he'd love to give Nightcrawler new powers, but as soon as he gave that invisibility and shadow power, he then decided he hated it. And John Byrne never liked it either, so they kind of swept it under the carpet.
Okay.
So that's why it never gets used.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, if someone can figure out an effective way to use it, it's like why it's like kind of like a secondary mutation. Like why does Nightcrawler need to do that as well as teleport? And he has the fuzzy skin and like two toes or whatever. It's like Banshee just screams. He's just got one singular thing. Colossus turns to metal, and Storm can control the weather. So why does Nightcrawler get like 5 different things? So yeah, I'm glad they took it away and let him just be himself with his teleportation. I think it was a good call.
Yeah. And like John Byrne points out, he said, I never saw the Nightcrawler's face is constantly in shadow. So shouldn't his face keep disappearing?
Right. That's true. Yeah, they do always. It's kind of like Daredevil also always has the black shadow on the front of his mask. Always. Doesn't matter where the light source is. It's just kind of always there in these early days. Not so much in the modern, but that's definitely how he was drawn back then. Okay, now let's move on to issue 108, Armageddon Now. And this is the first issue that is drawn by John Byrne. And boy, it's just quite something. And I feel like John Byrne, while you can definitely see his style, he has a very signature style in the way that he draws faces and poses and such. And maybe this is because of the inks by Terry Austin, but it still has a lot of Cochramisms in there. And I don't know, because Terry Austin wasn't the inker for these other Cockrum issues. So I wonder if both of them are just trying to keep the continuity going a little bit, because a lot of it, especially I feel like in Colossus's face and such, feel very, very much like this is still a Dave Cockrum influenced book. It looks different than Iron Fist, I'll say that.
Yeah, but John Byrne was a big Dave Cockrum fan, so I can see that he'd want to try and emulate his style, at least in the first couple of issues, and keep that continuity there.
Yeah, definitely. So this is the conclusion to our big story that's been wrapping up for ages, and this is the scene where Phoenix sacrifices herself in order to not sacrifices herself. That's later. Sorry, but she lets the Phoenix come out in full force in order to take care of the this issue, and save the galaxy. And what a spectacular last scene here, where she kind of gathers energy from everybody around, from Storm and stuff, and just a great climax to this story. And they wrap it up after that with one page of just like tying up some loose ends and such. And it's just a wild ride. And I can't believe that it's been building in real time. It was building for well over a year, maybe even a year and a half, but several issues coming to a head here. So I want to hear your thoughts, Phil. Tell me about your thoughts on this issue.
Yes, everything ramps up a notch or two on this issue. The art just gets absolutely tremendous. It's the first time we really see Phoenix using her power, and that's no small feat. Defeating a universe. That's pretty good going, or a galaxy.
What was interesting to me is, and I don't remember this from the last time I read this, but Phoenix actually turns into, it seems like a phoenix, like the fire that it doesn't. You can see. I don't know if this panel here is to indicate that she is turning into the phoenix, or if she is projecting the phoenix. But anyway, the subsequent panels have this phoenix effigy, or whatever you want to call it, and Jean Grey is talking directly out of it, so it's like she's turned into a phoenix. And
yes,
that's not something that's. It does mention that she has turned into a phoenix.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's right. It says I'm beautiful. I'm Jean, yet I'm a phoenix, and I feel as if for the first time in my life I'm truly alive.
Yep. And the page where she tells Corsair that Scott is his son. For a second, fourth panel there. At the bottom of the page, it says "woman to bird form, flesh to living energy." So she does physically transform.
So she does, and so like that's interesting, because I don't recall her doing that ever again. Does she? Do you know if she does? Do you recall?
Possibly.
I guess we'll find out through our read through.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think she does in modern X-Men at all. It's just usually manifests itself as flames around her or whatever. Yeah, I like how also through this revealing of Major Summers, like Corsair's true identity, we get hints of his past. They call him Major Summers, so he's an army guy of some sort, and um, and obviously he has a lot of emotional baggage around leaving his son behind or his sons, and um, and he believes Jean Grey at face value that that actually is his son, even though he hasn't seen him since he was a child. So that's kind of neat. I like how they're just dropping those little breadcrumbs that maybe we'll get to that in the future. We'll see what happens.
Chris Claremont is planting seeds.
Oh yeah. And speaking of seeds, JV says, "Of course, we all know that's not really Jean Grey, but the actual Phoenix, Jean is cocooned at the bottom of the lake, which we'll find out many years from now." That's kind of a spoiler. Sorry, everybody. Um, I guess I shouldn't have put that comment up on the screen. Right at the very beginning of this issue. Oh, by the way, it was great to see the Fantastic Four and the Avengers show up in one of these pages on page 303 of the Epic Collection. But it's really funny to me that they're like, I guess this is just out of our hands. This is too big of a thing for us. We can't deal with this. We're just going to have to let the X-Men do it. Because I feel like the combined forces of Fantastic Four and Avengers probably at least would have tried to help and gone into outer space and maybe tried to help, but they're like, I guess we're just going to have to hold hands and hug each other as the galaxy comes to an end.
Yeah, very out of character, especially for Reed Richards. He'd have been straight into the lab and tried to put some device together.
Yeah. So right at the beginning of this, is it this issue here? Yeah, we meet this little purple dude. His name is Jeff. And then there's another character, another one called Mutt. And I can't remember. It might have even been JV. I can't remember who mentioned this on the page, but those are named after two classic comic strip characters named Mutt and Jeff, who were kind of an odd couple, funny characters that kind of just get into trouble and such. So, and I think Chris Claremont, who I'm assuming was in charge of naming, did this a lot. The character of Hepzibah, one of the Starjammers, who looks kind of like a skunk, is that name is taken from a character from another comic strip called Pogo, where this little skunk character, her name is Hepzibah as well, Mademoiselle Hepzibah.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that.
there's two characters for you right there. Do you have any more comments about this issue?
Only that there's one panel there where you can see Claremont is still trying to play up Colossus. When Phoenix is repairing the lattice, the dialogue is, "A new pattern forms, shaped like the mystic tree of life, with Xavier, its lofty crown, and Colossus, its base."
Oh,
So it's still
interesting.
Colossus that's holding the group together at this point.
Yeah.
John
I
Byrne
guess
saw
that kind
that.
of makes sense. He kind of has that he's like the heart of the team. He's the one that I think emotionally connects with the characters. Nightcrawler could play that role too, but I think Colossus. It's the while Nightcrawler, his kindness is offset by his looks. Um, Colossus's gentleness is offset by his physical power, and I think that plays a big role in that.
Right. Yeah. Although Iceman might not be too happy with it. He doesn't like Russians.
Well, that guy's not around anymore. Okay, so at the end of this issue, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Around this time, they had possibly terminal plans for Iceman. Obviously, nothing ever came of it. Maybe editorial at Marvel stopped them from doing it. But that was interesting.
Where were they going to do that? In Champions?
I have no idea. They just said they had, or John Byrne said they had possible plans to do it.
Oh, weird. Could you imagine that? Well, I mean, yeah, they can kill people off and then they'll bring them back, who knows, a little while later. At the end of this issue, it's revealed that Lilandra is exiled to Earth now. And at the very end here, we get a really nice panel that says, "This book dedicated with respect and admiration to Dave Cockrum, who helped make the dream a reality." And then right under that, it says, from Dave Cockrum, it says, "I'm not dead." So I like that little touch there.
Well deserved.
Definitely. Well deserved. Yeah, and you can tell that they have a whole lot of respect for him, and it's sad to see him go. But that really ushers in a new era, even though it was only 14 or 15 issues, new era of X-Men for this new generation here. And for those of you who, if you're watching this and you haven't started on this reading club yet, this is the time where you can jump back in. Don't worry about the stuff that you read before. You can start in with this stuff, or you can wait till Monday's reading, today's reading. You could start with that too. While it would be great if you read the stuff that came before, if you don't have time, just jump in now. Okay, we're going to move on to Iron Fist, number 14. This one is called Snowfire, and it is a one-shot story where Sabretooth, where it's the introduction to Sabretooth, his first appearance. Sabretooth at this point is just kind of a mercenary, a hired gun who's there to transport some merchandise, and Danny Rand and Colleen Wing have to go and kind of face him and stop him. So really, it's just kind of one big fight toward the end, the last half, between Iron Fist and this brand new character that we don't really know anything about. At this point, there's no ties to Wolverine, there's no ties to X-Men, but it's kind of neat to see Sabretooth in this early form. His costume, right off the bat, is something that just sticks around for years with very minimal refinement. Like it looks great, and then to see Iron Fist being able to take him out is such a blast. And of course, these two issues of Iron Fist are written by Chris Claremont and drawn by John Byrne. So we have some continuity in that sense in a collection like this, because the art style is going to be very similar. What are your thoughts on this issue of Iron Fist, Phil?
Yep, great issue. I like the mystery of the character who defeats Iron Fist in the beginning, who will eventually come back in Marvel Team Up. And yeah, what a great introduction for Sabretooth. Although I do think Iron Fist beats him a little too easily. I wish the fight had been a bit more brutal.
We don't really know very much about his. I mean, yeah, he's just an undefined character at this point. Even Chris Claremont probably didn't have him defined. He has these claws and such, and of course he looks bulky and such, but he's definitely not the same powerhouse as we get to know him as later on. So I think they're just kind of working that out. Yeah.
Right. Although I think in the next issue there's I think Iron Fist, when he's fighting Wolverine, he says, hey, you know what? This guy's like Sabretooth. I wonder if there's a connection between them.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yep.
Claremont was
Yeah.
thinking of that right from the beginning.
And even if he wasn't, people definitely pick up on that and run with it later on. Yeah, this issue was pretty good. It's as far as the overall story is concerned, it's not important to the X-Men. It's not something that you need to read, but it's still kind of fun. In fact, I would definitely recommend the entire Iron Fist Epic collection. I think is really, really good. Starting with oh man, who wrote the first one? Not Starlin, Doug Mensch.
Yep. Gil Kane on art.
Doug Mensch with Larry Hama on pencils. Like he's actually drawing it in his very early days of his comic book career, and then eventually Claremont comes in and John Byrne come in for the last several issues before the title gets canceled and then merged with Power Man. But it's worth reading. It's a lot of fun. The whole thing from start to finish is a great book.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go. Let's talk about Iron Fist number 15. This one it's called Enter the X-Men. And this is this is X-Men's the new team of X-Men's kind of first major guest appearance in another book. And part of the reason, and we talked about how the timing is weird with this one, but this was sort of a tryout for John Byrne to see how he could handle a team book. Because this is very different than just drawing a solo character like Iron Fist. And so it was probably a chance to work with Chris Claremont as well to see how they work together. In fact, maybe Chris recommended John Byrne because they'd been working on Iron Fist. But this is what we have here. We have the classic misunderstanding scenario where the two heroes meet, don't understand each other, and fight it out, and then realize at the very end, oh wait a minute, these guys are actually good guys. But this is a really, really fun issue. I like this, and there's so much to love with this the interactions between Iron Fist and most of these main characters as they tackle him one-on-one. And I especially love the scene where Storm gets a potato salad in her face. So good. Yep. Nice little bit of comedy.
And we start off with a Dave Cockrum cover. So that's what he was doing.
Oh yeah, right. Fantastic.
I'm not sure if this was a tryout issue for John Byrne drawing the X-Men or not, but if it was, I'm quite glad they didn't bring Dan Green over as inker on X-Men as well. I like Dan Green as an inker, but I think Terry Austin was just absolutely suited Byrne down to the ground.
Oh yeah, I agree. The two of them, that is an incredible combination. And Terry Austin is a fantastic inker who knows how to retain the style of the person he's inking, but yet still put in his own touch into things. And I think he worked with he was doing Cloak and Dagger in the 80s, the Cloak and Dagger miniseries. Is that right? With Rick Leonardi.
Might have been, yeah. I'm not entirely sure.
And just the things that you like, it's a very, very similar in tone to the work that he's doing with John Byrne here. That's what his inks provide, and it's really, really great. But yeah, Dan Green is good too. He's a little bit more simple. His lines are thinner, and so I think you don't get the same sort of dynamic. When I was talking about how who was the inker I was talking about the other day that was just like it was a warm hug? It was
Sam Granger.
Yeah, Sam Granger. So Sam Granger, his inks are thick. He puts a lot of ink on the page. and so like his action lines in the background, they swell up in the page there, and his lines when he's drawing overshadows, and you get an arc, and the ink line goes a lot thicker. Like that really feels good. And Dan is not that kind of an inker, and so there's a lot more just, I guess, negative space in what he does. He doesn't feel the need to fill up the page, which you don't need to fill up the page, but it gives off a different feel for sure.
Right, yeah. Some of it looks almost unfinished, almost like he needs to do a little bit more work. Like the very last panel of the issue. It just looks unfinished to me.
Yeah, so that's often a result. Like last pages often look unfinished because you're up against the deadline, so you just got to get that last page done as fast as you can. So you're right. The last page, like most of those panels don't have proper backgrounds. And it does look a little rushed because I think they probably were just trying to get it out.
Right.
That's my guess.
But at the top of the page, you've got John Byrne and Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum. So Byrne and Cockrum could have helped out.
What are they doing there?
They're in the party.
They're part of the party.
Along with Patty Cockrum and Bonnie Wilford, who was Chris Claremont's wife at the time.
That's
Party
so
crashes.
funny. Yep. Oh yeah. So it was a natural for them to be connected because, of course, Jean Grey has been the roommate of Misty Knight for a while now, and with Claremont writing both of the titles, it kind of makes sense that it kind of makes sense that we would have this interaction at some point, because why wouldn't you? That's just that's what happens in comic books. And so when Jean Grey and the X-Men, they are destroying the apartment in their battle and such, and then the landlord at the very end comes in. He's like, "You're out of here. I'm going to make sure that the owners of this building, Rand Meacham Limited, get you kicked out at once," or something like that. And then Danny Rand is standing right there, and he's like, "Did I hear you mention my company's name?" So great little ending. I like that touch. It's just like, let's smooth over all the problems
You're the
with
Danny
this one
Rand?
sentence. Yeah, the Daniel Rand. Yeah, really great. So overall, I'm glad that these two issues were included, especially the X-Men one. Are they necessary to the overall story? No, but the X-Men one especially is super fun, and it's a welcome addition to this epic collection for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think we should move on to X-Men 109. And this is, in the X-Men continuity, this is the return of the X-Men to Earth. They get back to the X-Mansion and immediately go into all of their own personal things that they were dealing with before, like Banshee goes on a date with Moira, and Storm dances naked in the rain, like she seems to do a lot in these early issues. Yeah. And meanwhile, we get to learn a little bit more about all these characters. This is like the calm after the storm. It's relaxing. It's like we've just built up issue upon issue of making the stakes higher and higher. So let's just take a step back and get to know our characters a little bit better. And the one we get to know the most, I think, here is Wolverine, who is attacked by Weapon Alpha, part of the Alpha Flight, a character that we will know later on as Vindicator, but right now he's going by the name Weapon Alpha because Wolverine, when he was working with the Canadian government, went under the name Weapon X. And so they're trying to keep that little weapon name going on there.
Right. And I like the way they introduce him first of all in Deep Shadow. It's page 15 of the story.
Yeah. Exactly. And if he were Nightcrawler, we wouldn't see him at all. But because he's not
Right.
Nightcrawler,
Yeah.
yeah. So this was a good issue too. I think it fills the the mandate that there must be a battle in every issue, but not an unnecessary battle, and one that helps flesh out the characters, and it's just a one and done thing, so we can just move on after this and not worry about starting a whole new story, because I think Chris has some big plans, and he just needed to bide his time a little bit on this before he starts his next major story.
Right. Yeah.
But the viewer Saturday Morning Fan says X-Men the animated series used this issue as an episode of the show, so that's cool. I think I remember that. But yeah, Alpha Flight just is great, and as a Canadian, I've always enjoyed seeing them pop up here and there, and I would love to see um, some epic collections of Alpha Flight at some point.
I'm sure they'll be along.
Yep, probably. I mean, it's John Byrne, so they're going to milk that for all it's worth eventually.
Of course. I really like
This one has a Cockrum.
colour.
The coloring in this one? Is that what you said?
Yep. I don't know what it just seems to Andy Anxious. He just kind of nails it, especially like the panel where the door is getting away from Wolverine. The use of the shadow on Wolverine, and then the sunlight coming through the trees.
Yes. Yeah. That reminded me of the development with Wolverine of not being a killer, because in the previous scene he's talking to Moira and Aurora, saying that he's going to go out and do some hunting, and Storm is really taken aback at that. She says, you would take the lives of innocent animals not for survival but merely for sport? And Wolverine just responds with, I said hunting, honey bunch. I said nothing about killing. It takes no skill to kill. What takes skill is sneaking up close enough to a skittish doe to touch her. And I was like, that's really, really great. Yeah, that shows a lot about his character that we didn't know before. A lot of his gruffness is kind of an act. He's not actually out for blood all the time. So he's letting his guard down, and the fact that he actually takes off his mask in this issue is important, I think, as well, because I don't recall if he's actually, well, I mean, he had to do that with Fang's costume, of course, because Fang didn't have a mask in his costume, but I don't think that he actually had taken off his mask with his regular costume up until this point.
Well, there was the Sentinels issue where they're up on the
Did he?
up on the satellite. He's bare chested, and that was the first
Oh
time
yeah. Okay,
saying,
so I guess so. I stand corrected, but still, I still think it's a sign of him letting his guard down and becoming more familiar and more comfortable with these people, even though he still doesn't know them. They don't really know him. I don't think they know his real name yet. Because that one leprechaun said it a few issues back, but he hasn't told everybody yet that his name is Logan.
I'm not sure.
I've been waiting for that moment, but I don't think it's come yet. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say about this issue here?
Only that he's the best at what he does, but what he does takes absolutely no skill. Nice one, Wolverine.
There you go.
Even Squirrel Girl could do it.
On here, one of the comments, James Moore says, Sabretooth is an interesting example of Claremont bringing in villains from other books he was writing, like Mystique, Deathbird, Arcade, and Moses Magnum. And I feel like that's kind of what a lot of writers will do. Like J.M. DeMatteis, one of his famous examples is that he created Vermin in Captain America. And then when he went to write Kraven's Last Hunt, he made Vermin one of the central characters because it's his character. So, like, why not bring him to whatever next book he's writing? Uh, and Claremont did that as well, and we see that come out more with Claremont just because of the sheer length of time that he was on X-Men.
Yeah, if you've got a great character, use him.
Yep.
Oh, excuse me.
And there's another comment that is very similar to this. Ian says, one of the things I enjoyed noticing in epics is how Marvel writers of that era had pet characters and would just port them from book to book if they first got canceled or they left. Claremont does it with Iron Fist having Cyclops date Colleen Wing for a bit and eventually Sabretooth becoming a major X-Men baddie. But also Ms. Marvel becomes an important side book. Carol Danvers is heavily used in the 150s and 60s. And then, yeah, he calls out Mystique and Deathbird as well. And then he also says, I first really noticed that Englehart does this with Mantis, bringing her from Avengers to Silver Surfer and Fantastic Four. Yeah, he even brought Mantis over to non-Marvel books as well, including Justice League and Coyote for Eclipse or Epic.
Right. Yeah. She was Willow, I think, in Justice League.
Right. Yeah. Okay, when I first read the original Iron Fist comics, I saw Sabretooth and I was shocked. This is what Matt H. says. I had only ever knew him as an X-Men villain. Yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised at that when they discovered that. You look on the little trading cards and on the back it says first appearance Iron Fist. What? Weird. Okay. Let's see here. We're almost at an hour, so why don't we tackle these next two issues together since they kind of relate. We're talking about let me see if I'm in the right spot here. Yeah. Marvel Team Up Annual #1 featuring Spider-Man and the X-Men, and Marvel Team Up #53 featuring Spider-Man and the Hulk. These two issues kind of go hand in hand. The Marvel Team Up is kind of like a follow-up to the annual issue. Both of these ones written by Bill Mantlo, and Sal Buscema is the artist. And John Byrne is the artist of the Marvel Team Up issue, which gives some nice continuity to this book by including this one in here. John Byrne was drawing a lot of the Marvel Team Up issues around this time, and even Chris Claremont was even writing a bunch of them. So those two guys were super busy during this period of comics.
Yeah.
We get another cover by Dave Cockrum. He's doing a lot of covers here. All of these X-Men covers, X-Men guest appearance covers are by Cockrum. And so, yeah, this story was not my favorite. I have a love-hate relationship with Marvel Team Up because some of the issues I love and some of them are just boring or I don't like them and such. And so it's hard for me to say, yeah, I like Marvel Team Up as a book. I think it's a great book because a lot of it I just actually don't care for. And I'm wondering, Phil, if you have that problem or if you just generally like the whole thing.
I was just going to say before my sound temporarily dropped out, but I was just going to say that these two issues, the typical Marvel Team Up, they're just there to spotlight the character.
Yeah.
You know, it's a Spider-Man book. Let's put the X-Men in there because we're trying to sell X-Men. It's a relatively new title. Let's try and get Wood God in there.
Yeah. So, yeah, Wood God is such a funny character. I think that I don't know where does Wood God have a life after this issue of Marvel Team Up?
Yeah, he does come back a few times.
Okay. I always wonder that with these random characters. I mean, I'm sure he's in the next issue because this issue ends on a cliffhanger, the Marvel Team Up issue. But yeah, overall, it's too bad that these are all clumped together at the end of this epic collection because when you're reading it like we are, it's hard it's hard to just like not. I just want to get to the next issue of X-Men. It's like why are we wasting our time with all of these and like there's still a couple more issues of Marvel Team Up to go. The next issue of X-Men is a like a fill-in issue, sort of, and then we have a couple more issues of Team Up, and then the first issue of Proteus is an Incredible Hulk annual. So it's like we don't really get back to the X-Men for a little while here, which is too bad.
Yeah, they just throw in the X-Men all over the place, just trying to sell them, introduce them to as many readers as they can.
Yeah, I think that they realized that they had struck gold because but they didn't realize it until like the numbers started coming in. Um, and so like we get past this very first arc, and then they're like, "Oh man, these guys are great. We should be putting them in a bunch of different books to let people know that there are these new great characters." And so then we get a bunch of guest appearances and such. But yeah. Oh, here's a good question for you, Phil.
Yeah, I just read it.
A question for Phil. He says, with no disrespect, when you read these stories, do you read with an American accent in mind with the X-Men? I tend to read them with the accents of each character's country.
I'm exactly the same. I tend to put American, or in the case of Alpha Flight, Canadian accents on them.
Okay. I think I don't. For Nightcrawler, I can still hear his voice from the cartoon, so I usually have his voice in mind, but don't I don't usually hear, and this is probably just because I'm not European, so I'm just maybe not as familiar with these accents or so, but I don't put an Irish accent on Banshee.
Oh, I hear the
Nor
Irish.
do I. Pardon?
Oh, I hear the Irish.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm
I,
sure. I'm sure it's good for you. I have no doubt about that. But but yeah, Colossus. Sometimes I'll think of him in doing Russian, but most of the time not. Storm's another one where that voice is so familiar because of the cartoon that I can't help but hear that voice in my head.
I've never watched the cartoons. I may have
Oh
watched one
yeah,
or two many, many years ago, but I've never really sat down and watched a whole bunch of the cartoons. And Storm's a difficult one too because when she's introduced, she's Kenyan, but then they make it very clear she's a displaced American. So what voice do you put on her?
right. True. Um, yeah, I mean she doesn't have an African accent in the cartoon, that's for sure. Um, yeah, I mean I don't know if I'd recommend you watching the show because they take while they try to be faithful to the comics, and it's a lot more faithful than many adaptations of Marvel properties. They still take some liberties that you'd probably be like, I'm not on board with that. So, and also a lot of it reflects the '90s, which I know you're not too keen on anyway.
The episodes I did see, I was actually impressed by how faithful they were.
Yeah, yeah. They do a really good job of trying to stay as close as they can to the source material, but also, they have to make changes just for the makeup of characters that they have there, um, or yeah, just what they're trying to accomplish, what they're allowed to do. So, it was good.
Which brings me to a question that I've been meaning to ask you for the last fortnight. How familiar are you with these stories? Have you read all of these before, or are they new to you?
I've read these first three epics, Second Genesis, Proteus, and Dark Phoenix before. When they first came out, I read them as epic collections. Before that, I'd read the Dark Phoenix saga. I kind of read the milestone story arcs, Days of Future Past and
The main
that kind of
events.
stuff. The main events, but it's all of these in between issues that I'm not as familiar with. So I would say that this is probably my second time going through these epic collections, but with the caveat that I'd read smatterings of issues here and there before, throughout my childhood or wherever.
Right.
I had a paperback. That just one of those small ones that had second gen, like the first Giant Size X-Men #1, and also one of the John Byrne issues later on. I think it was called Mindstorm, something like that. And so I, those kind of things. When I get random books that have these issues reprinted in them, when I was a kid, I'd read them over and over again. So some of these issues I'm super familiar with, some of them not so much. And like I said at the beginning, I've never read this series from like the Claremont run from start to finish in order, like ever. It's always been just like little chunks here and there. So this is reading it like this is going to be overall a new experience for me.
Right. That's good to know.
Yeah. Okay, people, a couple more comments, and then I think we need to sign off because we've hit our hour mark here. Papa John says, quick comments for 14 and 15. This was a solid anthology and one of the better first issues of a later iconic character. How lucky to have John Byrne pencil your first appearance. And he says that the fight between Sabretooth and Iron Fist was well done and a clever one playing around with snow blindness. I thought that was good too. And I like how John Byrne kind of reflected that in the art as well. And then in 15, he says, decent fun, a standard miscommunication story. Crazy to see how strong Iron Fist is here, holding his own against the new X-Men team members. I wonder how he would perform against later power-scaled versions of them. Well, Iron Fist himself is a little power-scaled in modern days as well, so I don't know if he'd be equivalent or not. But I think the thing to remember is that it's Iron Fist's book, so of course he has to look the best out of all of them. He has to look better than Iron Fist. Better than the X-Men. But also the X-Men are still a new team, so they are going to have their weaknesses and not going to look their best just simply because they're kind of the unknown characters. Yeah, Spider-Man kicks all of the X-Men's butt by himself in Secret Wars also.
Who are these X-Men anyway?
Yeah. Saturday Morning Fan says they did a giant size X-Men story and a digest size book also in the 70s or 80s. I'm pretty sure that's the one I'm talking about. I think it was from the 70s that I read. Oh, Dr. Smith is here. Dr. Smith and his pal Stoger have been podcasting their reviews of all of these X-Men issues on their podcast, which is called the Marvel Epic Collection Podcast. Okay, one more comment. Papa John says, thoughts on 109. It was great to see them back home and spending time with another. The soap opera elements and character interactions were sorely missed, like the tense conversation with Nightcrawler and Cyclops. Comparatively, Nightcrawler and Colossus's friendship is a blast. So I agree. While I love the just all of the action that we got in the Outer Space Saga there, these characters are ones that we care about, and it's because of issues like this and showing their interactions and the way Chris Claremont handles them that's what's really, really important here, I think.
Yeah, Claremont is great with the character pieces. And he throws, like just in issue 109, he throws so many little pieces into that issue. There's Jean Grey and her parents. There's the Colossus, Cyclops. There's Nightcrawler. He just does so well at them.
Absolutely. Tom DeFalco always says, people come for the action, but they stay for the soap opera.
Right.
And I think Claremont knew that for sure. Okay, everybody. Next week, here's what the schedule looks like for this week. Starting today, you can read X-Men 110. Then we have 2 issues of Marvel Team Up and 1 issue of Incredible Hulk. And after that, we're going to get a nice long string of just X-Men issues. So we just have to kind of power through, I think, through these last few Marvel Team Up issues here. And also, it's exciting to know that once you do read Marvel Team Up 70, you will have read all of X-Men Epic Collection Volume 5 Second Genesis. We will have made it through our first Epic Collection in this reading club, and I think that's pretty exciting. So, Phil, I want to ask you, do you have any last words about this last week of X-Men comics, or what do we have in store for the future?
Only that this week felt like it was a bit of a slowdown, just because of all the fill-in issues we had there, the Marvel Team-Up ones and the Iron Fist. But pretty soon, we're going to get into an absolutely awesome run of X-Men.
Oh yeah, this is where starting in 5, definitely. We're going to just ramp it up. And we thought we got ramped up with all that. Oh, one more question for you. How do you pronounce Mcron crystal? Do you say Mcron crystal or Mcron crystal or Mcron crystal? How do you pronounce that?
Macron.
Mcron. Yeah.
I don't know if
that's
it's right
how I've
or
always
not,
said it too. Mcron crystal. And I think in the cartoon they say Mcron crystal. That was always kind of weird. But yeah, Kron. Good. Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Right.
Okay, people. That's it for us. Thank you for listening to our live stream and sharing your thoughts in the comments and sharing your thoughts on Discord and on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm trying to keep up with them all, but there are a lot of comments, which I love. Thank you for participating in this so thoroughly. It's been really, really great to read all of your thoughts on this.
Yes, thank you to everyone in the chat. It's always great to see you all here.
Definitely. And thank you, Phil, for joining me once again for another episode. And yeah, we'll see everybody next Monday. Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to be able to do a live stream tomorrow because I have to go in for some dental surgery in the morning, and I'll probably be in pain and hopped up on some drugs. But I've got a lot of books to share with you the following week. So anyway, thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. So long.